back, ladies and gentlemen, to Game 2 of SK Telecom T1 versus Royal Never Give Up. The South Korean back-to-back world champions against the LPL. China's runner-up here, hoping to make that run, get the monkey off their back, destroy their demons, and actually take down SKT in a best-of-5, make it to a world final, be the only team to ever dethrone SKT at Worlds.
And you have to say, Game 1 went to plan, but like we mentioned previously, they have won Game 1s before. It was an interesting game. It was messy at times. SKT had a plan that was different to how they usually architect their team comps. It was largely about playmaking to try to slow down the inevitable onslaught of late-game Twitch and Malzahar. They could not pull it off.
And we can't shy away from it. A huge part of that playmaking collapsed for SKT. It failed, and it was this Blitzcrank pick on the bottom side of the map. The bottom lane of SK Telecom is what so many people had their eyes on and had question marks on because of the way that they were even able to get to this match.
And you think about the draft and what it meant. We saw the early focus topside. Of course, Gangplank can be ganked early, but follow the logic. That jungler was certainly not going to be bot side, so theoretically, there was a lot of space for the Blitzcrank to do playmaking and not be counter ganked, not be taken down in lane. That playmaking failed, and I think not being able to execute on the Blitzcrank when they had already shown they were considering Rakan, a bit more of a safer pick there that could bring Ardent Sensor, that straddles the line between aggression and defense, cost SKT.
And we'll see what their choices are now into Game 2. Adaptation very often the name of the game for SKT. They've given up Game 1 against Royal before. They've always come back to win it. So now is the real test. You say, okay, can they replicate success RNG, or does the old SKT come back to the same domination we have seen year over year over year? Picks and bans begin. Jarvan, Kalista off the table.
Something like Galio could again be left available for SKT at first pick. Oh, Never Give Up. We're happy to pass over the Galio for other priorities. And see, on the blue side, there will be a Janna ban. At the start of this tournament, I would have said categorically that SKT would trust in their bot lane and opt into Lulu versus Janna till the cows came home. The cows are here. The Janna is banned. SKT, they're trying different scenarios because they're not putting their faith in late game 5v5s with Bang being the star.
You have to see what comes through into this one. What will their next ban be? Tristana off the table as well, removing a lot of safety out of the draft. Of course, the Janna that was played by Ming, but the Tristana was played by Bang last game, and both these now off the table.
Tristana, an unbelievable amount of success here at Worlds so far, and Uzi definitely one of the pilots that has found it in the past. Not going to be an option this time around. The Lulu could be traded over in exchange for the Galio this time if you're looking for the Ardent Sensor again.
Not a lot of surprise. The Galio first pick, certainly a high prized champion. It did not work for SKT the previous game, but it does not mean you can't pick the champion again. Of course, we know how powerful it can be, usually in the hands of Faker in the mid lane. RNG to see what their trade will be. They wanted to ban Sejuani instead. They knew they'd give this over. So the question is, what is their trade? Is it Xayah Rakan? We have not seen Uzi play Xayah all Worlds, but it is probably the best single bottom lane in League of Legends.
Yeah, the duo is available. That's the surprise here. We've seen so many teams prize taking Xayah or Rakan first pick just to deny the duo, but it's not really ultra comfort for Uzi.
Yeah, one of the main reasons why we suspected teams may leave that open against RNG is because our Uzi and RNG had banned Xayah every single game, regardless
100%.
of side, previously to this. This time around, it gets through, but he still goes for the late game team fighting. Will be centered around Uzi, around this Twitch.
So you wonder if it was brilliance to leave open both, or was it a pre-planned strategy from SKT? They always ride the line there. It's usually the genius side. They're actually just going to be going for Varus, so a lot of lane priority here for SKT.
Now keep in mind, Bang hasn't played the champion either at Worlds so far. Not the same ban rate, I'm almost certain, but Varus going to be the pickup here. Certainly something quite a bit different. Usually a lane-dominant champion. They've yet to show the support as well, so SKT will see what they want out of this one. Xiaohu clearly happy to continue playing Malzahar into the presumed Galio mid.
Only 2 games for Uzi this year, 1-1, so not a prized pick. So we'll say for now that SKT assumed this, but and to track in as the draft goes on, have to take the Malzahar before the second round of bans. They are going to go comfortably into that matchup, and a Karma ban because, like you said, the support not taken yet for SKT.
That would be a very scary pushing lane. We already saw the attempt of Trist Blitzcrank, which I think should be able to win the 2-on-2, but hooks didn't land. Same time, though, Varus Karma would have been just as scary.
And if we do see more of a laning-focused support, more of a balanced support, maybe that'll allow SK to shift their attention to the top side rather than the bot side, because playing with the Blitzcrank, you expect a lot of bot lane focus to allow the Blitzcrank to try and take over the bottom half of the map. If you go for something a bit more standard, you have more options if you're black.
And again, we do expect SKT to play around top side because Huni has had such aggressive statistics for top laners. At this tournament, he is well above average of the 4% on every single individual champion that he's played, whether it is Jace or whether it is a tank. And that 4% is playing up aggressively into enemy territory, past that halfway point. So if they don't play around that, and he still overextends, he still plays that aggressive style, and they have to worry so much about this bottom lane, then they could start to come apart at the seams.
Worth noting that hasn't necessarily mean jungle camp on Huni. He hasn't necessarily had all the backup. He's largely been left on his own devices. This is Letme's Gnar. Gnar, a very famous pick for Letme, even back when he debuted with Xiaohu on Gamti. He was a big Gnar player, first time at Worlds, saw 957 pull it out last week. We see it here. I think Huni's going to take a skill matchup, and the Camille is certainly an option for him.
Is a good matchup. 10 seconds to go. We saw the Hump Road Riven as well, which got me excited, but it's going to be locked in, and looks like Wolf just saying, Ignar, I trust your champion pool. Let's keep going for it. Leona versus Twitch.
All right, the next level is, will he also go Fervor with the Keystone Mastery and fully
Fervor of battle
trust in Ignar? Or will he go with, you know, some more shielding and blah, 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 boring stuff? But regardless, versus a Rakan Twitch lane, that is definitely a punishable lane. They can attack this bottom side.
The stats don't lie. 100% win rate at Worlds.
Against SKT themselves. Nocturne! Nocturne gets picked up as the jungle pick here. I think that's also 100% win rate, by the way, brought out by the Gigabyte Marines.
Let's bring back the heroes of group stages. There is the Gigabyte Marines here with the Nocturne pick. Could be multi-leashes.
I love this world.
Probably not. But then also Ignar showing up previously in the last game as Blitzcrank, now on Leona, and we'll see how they clash.
And notably, it's not with the same dive bud. It's not Galio with the Nocturne to make his life completely easy. He will want to go high damage and assassinate the Varus in particular in an instant. Rakan can start. Gnar situationally can start, but it's not the most reliable Nocturne comp. A lot on MLXG.
There are some situational counters as well, though, to my knowledge. Nocturne will turn off the lights and prevent Galio from casting the ultimate, prevent Teleport from being cast as well. So there are some really hard to see, but real soft counters in this game.
Well done, Freak. Hard to see. The Camille also split pushing. It can cause problems if the darkness does envelop the team at that point, and they're unable to coordinate their plays that much cleaner.
You're right, and also the fact that Huni continues to play split push, RNG saying we know he's going to be on the side lane. Nocturne good at getting over to that side, so lots of things that can be good for MLXG in this game.
One thing, though, we have seen Camille join with the rest of the team. Even though typically a split pushing champion, when you have Galio on top of your back, she can dive into the middle of the team.
That's also true. The backups from the two Quasi Globals are here. Faker and MLXG going to help the side lanes. We'll see how it goes. We are into game 2 now of this series. SKT backs against the wall, but they have done it so many times before. RNG in front of the home crowd, hoping to finally destroy the dynasty of SKT.
MLXG on the Nocturne is the first thing that my eyes are glued upon here. Remember how game 1, when Huni was on a split push, at that time it was Gangplank developed, was an early gank from MLXG. We don't respect the same sort of early ganking, maybe level 2, but not the same standard pathing for the Nocturne. So it could be pressure relieved both from a Camille and a Leona.
Hold on, look at a little bit of pressure right here. Huni gonna get the hook shot on the wall. Nicely done, does not have to burn a flash. You talked about early expectations. MLXG has 20 lethality right now into this game. This is gonna have to be, you know, Warrior Enchant, Duskblade of Drakthar, full assassin.
Come on,
Nocturne.
we knew he was going to be going full damage. He wants to one-shot the Varus in team fights, and let's take that as a grounded expectation. But consider that earlier, Camille and Leona can get a lot of work done, where Nocturne, he's just farming.
Or he can also one-shot a Camille. A lethality Nocturne also poses incredible threat to Huni on this champion. And we talk about the forward percentage and the play style that it does involve for him. He made a very good escape here, level 1. We'll continue to track if he's able to keep that up.
SKT can breathe in the early game compared to, say, RNG that have to respect all the pathing options available for a Gragas. So the fact that Huni and Wolf can look for pressure for early level 2s, can look for earlier plays because of the Nocturne is something we also have to take into account.
They got them all. All 5 went to Blank, got the level 2 red buff, leashed already by the duo lane.
It feels good for Gragas to get that super strong start here. Even if it is on Vision, MLXG will be able to infer the rest of the path as he sees him leave. We have to, again, check in on the strategy because RNG continue to give over this Galio to SKT willingly with these multiple counters prepared. Freaky touched on it, Champ Select a little bit as well as, you know, Nocturne with the counter to global aspect. We'll have to see if they're able to utilize that. Currently, though, Huni definitely taking a very good trade here with the mini Gnar.
Yeah, it's definitely considered a skill matchup between the Camille and Gnar. It tends to the advantage of Gnar, as with most ranged versus melee matchups, but you're so favored ganking for a Camille compared to ganking for a Gnar in terms of reliability. And speaking of ganking for a Camille, they're happy to use the pressure Huni has generated to take a walk topside.
Ooh, and he knows that Nocturne's nearby. I don't know if the Nocturne actually saw Faker himself, so looking for a taunt dive, MLXG nearby, but not any mana. Here comes all 3. Looking for the play as TP comes in as well. Hot side to the right-hand side. TP cancel, gets a slow, decent damage on a Huni.
Yeah, as soon as Letme's able to get that level 2 off of that creep wave dying to the turret, levels up the hop, and he is able to escape right there. Now, cooldown from Xiaohu with the teleport is an interesting trade as he was still able to shove this minion wave, and Faker gonna have to walk all the way down.
Take a deep breath again. This is actually something we've seen surprisingly often. It wasn't often in LCK. Admittedly, Huni wasn't playing that many games, but those visits topside by Faker, his ability to push out with Galio and leave lane, got them that big first blood against Misfits. He's trying to recreate that, but Nocturne on Krugs got them the early information.
With all that focus on the action on the top side, we need to revisit again SK Telecom's bottom lane. All eyes were on them for how they'll perform. He stepped it up, basically. Wolf has doubled down on this aggressive bottom lane playstyle, and with the double fervor bottom lane, Bang and Wolf have been able to keep pressure at the turret. This allows them to invade for the plants, for the deep wards here, to scout out Nocturne.
I do wonder if it would have been double fervor if it was a higher jungle proximity jungler than Nocturne, if it was an early ganking jungler, because this is certainly the highest amount of damage that can be output. But when you see Nocturne, when you feel like your offensive trades won't be answered by a counter gank in the laning phase, and Pre-6 is probably Leona's weakest point in the game, going double fervor here is relatively safer than basically any other scenario you would have prepped for with the Nocturne jungle.
Yeah, I think Bang's gonna run this almost all the time, but you're right, Wolf gonna be much squishier with the Keystone choice, but happy to look for those 2-on-2 fights.
Now, competitive League of Legends, even more so than solo queue or anything like that, revolves so heavily around specific timings. And as we approach the 9-minute mark is where we will start to see the level 6s come in for the bottom lane and for the jungler. So we have a few more minutes of lull and see, we'll have to keep track of how well MLXG is able to power farm, because Blake wants to adjust that timer. He wants to get there before the level 6s start to come in.
Yeah, Ming's at 400 HP right now. Uzi's stealth looking at just the last hit, then walking backwards, but the wave looks like actually might push toward the SKT duo, as Blake only got some wards and left right away. He actually did put a lane ward down behind that. He's expecting the MLXG roam.
Very early Ocean Drake taken here by SKT. And it'll probably just be duo down over time. Allows the Nocturne to keep farming up to level 4 already.
Good stun, couple hundred damage down on towards Uzi. Bang himself not quite arranged to do much more against that Twitch, but both champions at half HP right now. Bang getting a bit more and puts the heal across.
Interesting how they're going to position this minion wave as well, as SKT want it out in the open. They're trying to keep Uzi away from those dying minions. Meanwhile, Blank is going to be able to secure that Ocean Drake, and the early regeneration will help out those players.
His fight just came back up. He actually got to the damage well enough. Nice stun out of Huni. Good trade right there, but the shield times out and Let Me gets a bit more damage across. That's going to be hyper triggered, and yeah, you can see this is a not easy matchup.
And that's even without Nocturne intervening anywhere on the map previously. Been Ceteris Paribus, other things being equal for RNG. The laning phase has gone pretty safely. There's been attempted ganks, but nothing actually came over. There was a lot of defensive vision on the bot side of the map to relieve the pressure.
Finds the stun. Cleanse gets away Uzi out of Summoner's Never. The chase continues in! Almost gets him down. The Summoner heal from Ming, doing a bit more to keep him alive.
That's a 2 Summoner spell advantage now for the SK Telecom bottom lane. The flash from Leona can definitely be deadly in setting that up as well. Uzi does stick around, and they have a little bit of defensive vision. Also trying to keep track here of the experience on Nocturne. He will need another 2 camps at least before he's able to lend any sort of assistance.
That's when the texture of the lanes changes, when you have to respect the level 6 coming through from Nocturne. Uzi, didn't mention it earlier, did go cleanse in this lane, so doesn't have the barrier for another all-in, but he's been under his turrets, so for now, things pretty predictable, and he is being able to farm up decently, even if Bang has a nice CS advantage.
And when you talk about timers, you still have to worry about Faker on this Galio. So we track his play for the entire first 6 minutes of this game. He's constantly been pushing his wave and getting the roams off on Galio. Oh, we have another exchange in the bottom lane.
It's going to be okay, though. Going into Ming a bit easier to get away. You've got actually 3 dacks to get backwards.
Meanwhile, Faker continuing with the same game plan. He works with Blank now for this invade on the Nocturne, getting some vision on the second spawn of the red. Remember, he was able to go get that ward and the timing on the first red kill.
They would have also seen the MLXG, just as we spoke, pick up red buff, hit level 6 in vision. Important information for SKT to track.
And he beelines down to the bot side of the map right now. A flashless Varus without an ultimate could be the target.
A Galio ultimate could answer here from Faker. He would definitely need to roam down earlier.
Sees Faker, has the Fear available, could do some damage. Red buff on as well. Good bit of damage early on. He doesn't have any armor just yet. Fear lands. Here comes Blank. Xiaohu actually cut away by this one. As they knock down the Voidling for the re-engage, they're going to look for this one, the damage. They have it! First blood in the 2-on-2 for SKT.
That flash from Wolf is able to secure it, redeeming himself a bit here on the Leona. Finds the first blood for Bang on Baron.
And it's been so many games since we saw SKT actually being pushed up. We talked about Huni's forward percentage. Someone has to back away when one person's overextended. You can't usually have 3 lanes pushed up. It's largely been Bang and Wolf, around 14% forward percentage compared to other lanes up to 40 to 50% mark. This is a new side for SKT. It started with the Varus lock-in. Nice confirm on the kill from Wolf and Bang.
And it is important, too, that SK Telecom's bottom lane gets that kill before they're even level 6. This is one of the bottom lanes that has the most crowd control possible in it. So Bang and Wolf want to still pressure the opening where the flashes are down from Uzi and Ming, now that they have the huge crowd control advantage.
Yeah, exactly. It just got harder. The ultimate's available on every single member of SKT. You expect Blank to show up there at some point as well and continue to punish his Twitch Rakan lane. Wait to see if we can find that next moment. Again, we know MLXG has his ultimate up, and we'll see when that Nocturne first shows. Building a Red Smite and Warrior, definitely a hyper-aggressive build out of the RNG jungler.
What a thing where he can kill an enemy AD carry during his tether range, during his fear with his E. So looking for that high damage burst build, but makes him more accountable. Also means he has less wards to be able to put down.
Hit confirms ulti, hit confirms stun. It's all the damage, but he just barely slinks away. Ming survives. Blank nearby, though, and Uzi left alone 1v3.
There's blood in the water, and all the sharks are coming, though. Blank is seen on a ward, and the collapse from RNG is gonna not be enough to save a turret.
He's still trying. The Uzi knows where his teammates are. Ming a bit injured, but still wants to be part of this fight. The turrets will take damage, though. Bang lands a poke, doesn't take turret aggro, and a few more attacks come in. Looks like turret might not yet fall. They're backing away enough. It's all called off.
I think that SK Telecom can just stay here, though, and continue this pressure. Faker's going to clear that mid-wave, but clearing that mid-wave basically gives homework to Xiaohu that he has to go attend to before collapsing and lending his presence to the bottom side.
And Let Me was in Mega Gnar in vision of Huni. They also waited out the Mega Gnar. The Gnar is exhausted, so now pushing up, like you say, safer. Blank knows that MXG's in the area, but he's not concerned at all.
They're going for the play. This one nice. Bot is in by a bit of space, but it still will be the fear. Here comes the re-engage. Wolf nearby the flash to get this one. Do they have the damage? No, not just yet. Blank stays alive. They get the kill. A trade back though for Uzi. 1-for-1. Junglers both dead. Ming is around. Here comes the rest of the fight as Huni is teleported in. The ulti across. Xiaohu locked in the hexagon. Does he have the damage output? Not on either side. Just the 1-for-1.
More important for SKT to pressure everyone out and take the turret. This is a multi-pronged plan. The kills are great. The focus on the turret, but the minion wave's been pushed out, so still more time for RNG.
Exactly. RNG hold on to the top lane teleport for Let Me, and he, on Gnar, is going to try and get some work done on this top side. That's why Huni immediately goes for the recall to try and reestablish after the reset here.
You get to see the replay. Blank had walked up, and this is the first time we hear the ult pop to that ear-curling scream. The interrupt on the body slam means he couldn't get out, and they do take down Blank.
He ends up getting the kill anyway after the knockback there, and it is the 1-for-1, but definitely a little bit of a funny interaction as he pops his ultimate.
Damage all the same. Yeah, Shadow had already burned his summon on the way out, so able to walk away cleanly enough. Blue buff going to be going over to Faker. Not quite enough damage. He's got to wait for the next Q cooldown now. Blank doing his duty as a jungler should. Waits the entire time for all the damage to come out.
Critically though, as we're talking about them resetting after that last invade, SKT didn't push for the first turret bonus. So this bottom side is a very valuable kind of goal for both teams to work around. Because of the extra teleports that are available on RNG, it makes it very difficult for SK Telecom to overextend, and they should not get baited in by this kind of low-hanging fruit.
And Bang's in kind of an interesting spot. He hasn't recalled in a long while because he's working towards the Rage Blade. He also had the very early Ocean Drake, so he stayed in lane the entire time, built up a 20 CS lead. They could just leave the low-health turret as the spot for a Galio ult, for a turret dive, but an extended laning phase to Rage Blade is decent for the side of Bang.
It looks like RNG are going to make the first call. They abandoned that bottom lane turret, the first blood. The first turret gold is all over, and instead they're going to try and make a play onto Huni with the roam up top.
They got to make him a 2,500 gold lead. A nice aim out of Huni, getting the max distance possible. Done that twice now on very important escapes. And look at this, Ocean Drake number 2. Lots of early neutral objective pickups for SKT.
And I think we have to compliment Huni's top laner sense, because we've talked about the Pixies playing, Jace, Gangplank, Trundle. The fact that this team largely has been losing in the mid game and has been forced to do it without vision. You need very reliable top laner sense to not just die again and again, just feed overkills, to actually be able to create map pressure. And the way I look at Huni is he's kind of basically forcing a bad paradigm for the enemy team. Either you gank him, and SKT is great at cementing vision on the other side, using the information that the enemy team is topside and getting advantage or steadying the ship, or you leave him and he takes turrets. That's the reality of the champion pool he's selecting. Games like the previous one, he gets ganked, the enemy team can't punish because Blitzcrank's not on point. That's an unfortunate thing for SKT, but this is more the norm, like we're seeing in this game.
Right now it's that 2,000 and change gold lead here, so SKT looking to bounce back pretty nicely, looking still up almost the same style as before. Again, a split pushing, sort of carry type, 1-3-1 top lane, or the same Galio and another aggro lane in the bot lane, maybe a bit safer of a lane you could potentially argue, but Leona, again, only played one game at Worlds. SKT now 3 in a row saying, we don't care about Ardent Censer, that's not the style we need anymore. We're gonna learn from what Misfits did to us, and so far in this game it's looking good.
Small point, but because they don't have Ardent Censer on SKT's side, the one item power spike of the Rage Blade on Varus, I think, is not as much there.
Correct.
2 items, certainly, it is very powerful, but usually if Varus gets the very fast Rage Blade, it's paired with an Ardent Censer, it's insane. For here, it's just a good start.
Exactly. The synergy between those 2 items is actually twofold. The reason that the Rage Blade users are so popular during this Ardent Censer meta is because you have more attack speed from the Ardent Censer to stack up your Rage Blade, which people sometimes forget is where the power really comes from after it has max stacks. And then the Rage Blade is obviously going to pop double on-hit damage from your Ardent Censer as well. Meanwhile, though, the turret gets taken down all the same.
I mean, you get 6 stacks on it, you got a lot of attack speed, you do get this turret damage down, and for now, Uzi and Ming, they have to respect the Galio coming through, so they're giving up 3 turret HP, and only real punishment on the map is the Mega Gnar wailing away on the outer top bot lane turret.
Again, we look at scaling differences, and it's the same Twitch as the last game, but this time, of course, with much less gold than before. But Varus, typically not that same late-game threat that a Tristana could be. You wonder what the 40-minute situation would look like if it got there.
As well, it brings up this question of, the factor of Nocturne scaling, because generally accepted, especially in solo queue, doesn't scale that well for late game team fighting. But if you bring into consideration what you're talking about, using the ultimate strategically, for cutting off options for SK Telecom, of Galio ultimates and team coordination, then if that ultimate is used optimally, it can have a higher value than merely the stats and the damage output that you're looking at.
You get Baron control, you pop the Nocturne ult, maybe you cement it as seeing this counter rotation by RNG bot side, double TP.
Yeah,
just a single.
Yeah, Huni already there, but Faker's going to the flash forward. The stun's going to land to the half the damage. One picked up already. The re-engage from Faker's only a knock-up. He's still 1 versus 3. The chase forward. Ming wants everything. MLXG rather, and no, it's going to be him traded down to the turret. Faker pulling him into the damage output. Uzi waiting the wings, though. The silence is on. Will they re-engage this one? Look for the play as he puts him into the turret. The damage output coming across towards Faker, then back towards the jungle is Blank. Losing the health bar, but staying alive. The Deadly Venom not going to be quite enough damage. All said and done, looks like a 1-for-1.
1-for-1, and Uzi and Wolf actually is pushing for recalls here as he's able to stop a couple of them and delay the defense. Bang, meanwhile, pushing up mid lane to try and get some turret damage.
They're still getting that free time. They got the top lane turret. They're 2 turrets up, soon to be 3. We see the replay here as Faker teleports down with the wave clear. Flash Gnar comes through from Let Me. They do get down the first kill, but from there, they're not able to get more as Faker buys so much time and MXG starts tanking.
Yeah, Galio there, he's able to keep him in turret range for long enough. The last shot finding its mark there. Again, SK Telecom using this gold advantage. Let's see how they can pressure.
They're using it in a couple of good ways. There's triple Ninja Tappy in the crew already. You're seeing Bang has his, Faker and Blink the same, and those are the primary targets. Oftentimes, I assume we're going to see Huni pick one up as well in the near future. Those are some of the major targets with that Assassin Nocturne who is going for more lethality here.
And the gameplay we're seeing from SKT is what they were trying to do in Game 1. It's the same style and pace of game they wanted to set, the tempo of the game, if you will, because when you have globals and you also have a dueling advantage, you have a jungling pressure advantage early especially, you're all about having Bang in the mid lane pushing a turret while you're trading evenly down bot, so you're getting a global lead in terms of objectives. They were caught with their hands in the cookie jar multiple times early game in Game 1. That couldn't happen. RNG were able to scale. This time they've punished a lot more of the passivity that's just inherent with a Nocturne pick, and they are actually picking up those objective rates.
SK Telecom always looking to utilize the multiple points of pressure, and throughout their history, the team been so successful. Currently, they've got Huni up top in a 2 versus 1. Gets some vision of the Nocturne while the rest of the team here on screen uses this Rift Herald to get multiple charges off.
Yeah, mid turret dead, through 2 under fire as well. The engage coming across though. Here comes the spray and pray, looking for a couple more kills. The knockups and knockbacks are there, and Minga's fallen already. Now Uzi, a bit isolated. Faker can chase, but doesn't have flash for it. Here comes the dive out of Huni. Gets hold it back, but they have the burst damage nearsighted, trying to take him down, and they do just almost have the damage, but it's still with the trade as MXG's already dead. Won't force to jump away. The Deadly Venom maybe taking him down. Let Me on the chase as well. Faker going towards the turret, finds Xiaohu for some damage, looks for a bit more. Let Me gets himself the 1 kill. He throws the house at him and brings it down in the same swing. A triple kill for the top laner of RNG.
That was so big, it looked like SKT were fighting perfectly, but they took the turret shots, they kept moving forwards, and Let Me made them accountable.
This time around, it's SK Telecom who bite off too much. They get the first kill with a counter engage, but Huni's teleport in under the turret, grabs that aggro, and he has to jump out of the fight immediately.
Crowd tells us which team just won a team fight right there, but it is still RNG fighting back a 3,000 gold deficit. Sure, I do think they outscale. I think that's pretty likely here, but it is a lot to work back from SKT off to a pretty early lead.
An outscale is an eventuality. It's something that comes later. In the team fights right now, fighting front to back for RNG is very, very difficult. Galio is so tanky, even with the items that Xiaohu and Uzi had put together. It felt like Ninja Tabi answers the Hurricane and low attack damage just fine. They start off here, they get the charge up. So far, it's only SKT winning. RNG start the engage, but it started really good for SKT.
Look at that, they get the Rakan, perfect counter engage here, but Huni teleports in under the turret, immediately auto-attacks Xiaohu there after his ultimate, and he's dead almost right off the bat here. Uzi then is left with very little threat on him because Let Me on the Gnar is chasing off Bang into this little side corridor.
You thought the Twitch being cut off by Faker would be enough, but Let Me with the double house to the face, taking down the entire bot lane instantly. So big for RNG. Started well for SKT as third Drake only in 20 minutes, so they're really piling them up here, SKT.
Good nice for them. Let Me clocked him with that one for sure. Good damage out of him. And well, it is all the non-combat Drakes. Oceans can definitely let you keep pushing. You can get a lead. Your health bars and mana pools come right back up, and certainly you can take even more. And I mean, the fact they'll kill turrets and you know, Drakes and Barons afterwards a bit faster as well helps that. So if SKT can start winning fights, they can balloon it forwards, but they have to start winning fights now.
It's so big to always see a Mountain Drake on a team that has the tools that Papa Smithy was talking about earlier. You know, if SK Telecom can try and mount that side lane pressure and start to have that you know, closing feeling for RNG and gain control of the Baron area with the extra damage that they can do to the Baron, it adds so much more threat and could bait RNG into more of those perfect counter engage options for SK Telecom.
And a lazy triple kill for the Gnar also added to his damage threat, already working his way towards the Black Cleaver on the backside of the Frozen Mallet he already had completed earlier. Saw Huni kind of wincing in pain. He needs his lifesteal item. It's probably going to be the Ravenous Hydra here to keep up that sort of split push pressure. But for now, he actually has to allow Letme to set the tone of the top lane.
And again, even though we haven't seen this Nocturne be the star of the game, consistently, just like we saw on the screen there, he's shadowing Letme. As we set up in the Champ Select, he has the option of punishing this Camille, kind of taking away the options for this Camille pressure on the side to really mount. Now it's even a bigger issue since Letme got those 4 kills you're talking about. Not only is it a Fednar, but it's a Fednar with a possible Nocturne right behind him.
And on the Nocturne point, you know, people talk about how he scales. If you buy enough attack damage, which certainly is the build we're going to see here from MLXG, his job every fight is very simple. He presses R, presses it again on the Varus, and if he trades 1 for 1, he's done his job.
This time it's going to be an easy kill on the Blank. His health bar turned into his name at this point. Nice one picked up, and every once in a while, a couple hundred gold keeps going towards RNG. They're finding these picks now.
Camille wanted a bit of defensive warding. Blank came to oblige and died instantly, face-checking a Malzahar. One of the worst feels in League of Legends, but SKT, with the strength of the rest, with their globals, are still able to push up and contest any vision around the Baron area.
And it was 3 ultimates used for the kill, so Blank's going to be up before those important spells are right now. There is a window right now where SKT can use their 2,000 gold lead, use the 3 ultimates down and maybe find something for it. You're seeing, again, as you mentioned before, Letme seems to have the lead now in this matchup. Huni actually went for Magic Resist. The Mercury Trends came through for anti-CC. He does not have that armor to withstand Nocturne and Gnar's damage.
2 items on the Gnar, the 2 big ones, the laning focused Frozen Mallet and Black Cleaver, means that Camille is going to start bleeding the global gold that SKT had squarely in their pockets. It was 3 outer turrets to 0 to start this game, but because Gnar picked up the kills, because crucially he was the one and he brings teleport, he's probably going to answer 2 of those turrets very imminently.
Letme definitely deserves a lot of credit, and he has had to share, you know, Starlight and stage time with 2 of the biggest stars in China, you know, Xiaohu and Uzi.
Yep.
But Letme definitely, you know, in the past as well, they have played around him on carry champions. He has put in his work as well on this all-Chinese roster where every member has really stepped up at one point or another.
To me, he's definitely the method actor on the line. You know what you're going to get with Letme. He has his effective champion ball. He's consistent. His teleport usage is good. He's what the team needs, even if people aren't going to be screaming out his name like they will with some of his co-stars.
Scream his name out, Papa. Be the one.
I'm waiting for the next big house, man. I'm ready.
Don't preach too much. Let's see what happens here. To go into the bot lane, and here comes that Slink. He does have the ultimate across. Here it comes, and of course the dash would have been used. Flash not going to be enough. He's fleeing, but here comes the chase down, and there's not a lot of ways out. MLXG getting low, though. He's got to be careful. The knockup is in for Faker. Naked number 2, the boomerang not going to land. It comes back, but it doesn't matter. A shutdown for the best player in the world. Hoping to bring one more for SKT as Blank now finds an easy jungler to kill. The fear not going to matter. Blank gets himself a solo.
Faker immediately swoops in, but here we go!
The chase into the turn, the team goes, he's trying to find a cup, but no kills coming across. Nothing at all. Faker TPs to push him away.
Solar Flare was awesome from Wolf, catching 2 and stopping them from having the damage take down Varus. RNG felt the pressure to make a play in mid with all their initiation. It gets nothing, and Huni with Trinity Force is going to make short work of the inner turret.
Again, that counter engage from SK Telecom. The hero's entrance from Faker. Now they're on the Baron.
And they're still going. Jungler dead. Baron on their sights. 5,000 health left. There's no chance a Smite gets in range in time. So Uzi, can you stop them? Gets away from the ultimate. Does not have a zone to use. TP coming in. Will this be a stop? They can try to take down Blank, but it's going to be difficult. This fight going to be crap. Here comes a team fight. Will they have the damage? Uzi gets the back line. Now spots out Figma. Meanwhile, a kill had already come through. Thanks to Leona. The re-engage. Xiaohu being stunned up finds a silence, but he does not have any way out. And MLXG, it's going to be a death here, sorry, for Ming as well. Looks like a 3-for-1 advantage SKT.
Uzi should be able to complete this recall, though, and get out on the backside, even though SKT got that Baron buff, and they will be able to use the empowered recalls as well as the push.
But think of how fast things escalated in this game. We felt the dread of RNG just picking up turret after turret with how strong the Gnar was after they won that team fight. If you went out to grab a sandwich and came back, you'd be surprised to see that those kills piled up into a Baron, into inner turret. Now second inner turret being set up for SKT.
Exactly as we thought, the Nocturne went to the side lane to try and punish, but there's no bigger hero in League of Legends history than Faker himself to come in and right the situation after that play, that single play. Now with the Baron buff, they'll be able to break this game wide open.
Deathless, kill leader on the team, participation leader on the team right now, highest farm in the entire game. Faker does it all, and he has for so many years now. You can see this fight one more time. That went 3-1 plus the Baron for the Koreans.
Right decision to focus down the Baron with no possibility of a smite. That's why you saw Blank hold on to the smite, guarantee it. Uzi in one of these flanking positions, the sort of position that won him the previous game, but not with the cavalry behind him to make the big play.
SK Telecom are able to reorganize around that Baron put after Faker chases Uzi off to that tri-bush, and even though the recall is completed for him, RNG once again are going to find themselves at the mercy of an SK Telecom Baron buff.
Ooh, the flash stun's going to land. No ulti though, but the chase down's still going to be had. I don't think Let Me has a way out, and he doesn't. 11-8 now, SKT pushing the lead to 9,000 as they still wear that Baron buff.
MLXG actually popped the ult just to deny vision, try to dissuade the kill from coming through, but Nara goes down. The full court press is here with Huni pushing the top side, and I spy a Face of the Mountain from Leona, one of the few tools that can actually answer some of the damage from the Nocturne diving in, especially with the Paranoia effect.
And into lock it next item. I think very smart stuff out of this player here. The SKT support. 20 seconds of the respawn. 5v4. Baron buff activated. Look for the next play. Unless you're going to block the knockup. Nearly getting picked off there by Blank, but able to disengage a little bit longer. Meanwhile, you're seeing the top lane being pushed, and Huni gets the inhibitor turret, the first of this game so far. Bit of Boss still under fire, though.
The pressure mounting here from the former world champions as they take down another inhibitor turret. Bang's going to walk out after this one, and Huni is going to be able to arrive at the rest of the team.
Now the lead crests over 10,000. Definitely fun to see new stuff come out in this game, but the more things change, the more they stay the same. SKT's grit still so good.
I mean, Faker's got a new book out. I saw you spot it,
oh, man.
Kobe.
Well, same old story, though, for Faker. He has a tireless march towards the finals, and he doesn't want to let RNG stand in his way.
And who else but an unkillable Demon King to steal the souls of his opponents as he fells them throughout Summoner's Rift. I know it's a bit try-hard, but it's the way I'm going for this one there. He's actually going to give the blue buff away. Of course, he's got plenty of CDR himself. I think Tensuk Majais gives CDR, so he's going to give this one away to a teammate now. He's actually happy to let Huni have more mana. Not a problem for him. The push can continue. Double Ocean Drake needing infinite resources all the same regardless.
Remember the timer of 2 items on Uzi in the previous game. We're 28 minutes in, and he only has those 2 items to his name. Cheaper on-hit build coming through from Bang, but there's not that many safe places to farm. If he's going to be farming under the inhibitor turret in mid, other people are going to be giving up minions because SKT control the top quadrant. They largely control the bottom, and it seems like RNG are grouping for one big pick. That's probably their only way to even buy time to get back into this game.
There we go, look at the play. Bot lane being sieged. They've got the squad with them. Huni waiting. Tumbles off the wall, but this turret's at 2/3 HP. Will there be the re-engage? 10,000 gold again separates these squads. It's only a 2.5 item Uzi. He only has the armor pen. There's no, 80% crit monstrosity you expect of these champions.
When he's able to walk up, most melee champions can't against Malzahar, but he has invested in a QSS. All the snowball gold from the last 5 or 6 minutes makes it an easy purchase for him.
Time definitely working in SK Telecom's favor here right now as the super minions continue to pile in on the top side. MLXG is trying to be the one to clear them out because they'll use the Nocturne ultimate to join with the rest of the team and try and close that distance. But we've seen how ineffective this Nocturne is. Here goes Faker, though.
Oh, he gets on one as well. Faker looking for the next play. And Ming getting away from that one. Flash out from Uzi, though. Cleanse off as well. Important Summoner's missing as Faker just kites right back, and the middle inhibitor will fall. Top lane has already dropped a little while ago. Nice! Oh. Amazing explosive cast. Got a blanket. The re-engage coming across. Looking for a bit more. The knockup's fine. Will they get some more kills? Uzi taunts it up. The flash forward. The body slam is in. 2 deaths already. Make it a 3rd shortly. SKT will not be stopped inside their opponent's base. Xiaohu practically alone now as the support can only sit and watch the base starts to fall. Huni walking away. He's going to stay alive. The turrets will fall in 8 minutes faster than RNG did it in game 1. SKT looks to close back into game 2 as their 4th kill comes in for the fight. And the reigning world champions are closing in on their march.
Is this the beginning of another series? We see SK Telecom giving away game number 1, limping in game number 1 due to some new picks, and then a resurgence
But game 2, it was more new picks, Kobe. They stuck with what they were trying. It wasn't Blitzcrank, it was the Leona. But the execution difference the analyst desk talked about was definitely massive. The Leona was clean from Wolf, a pick he hasn't played in many moons. They tried the same strategy, and compared to game 1, where they had the picks, but the execution really halted them at the start, so suddenly it was 2-item Twitch very early, and their game plan fell apart. In this game, the timings were hit, the objectives stacked up, and it was straightforward for SKT.
And I can only give props to Bang & Wolf right here, who looked very weak in the first game, stuck with the style, as you're mentioning, Papa Smithy here, and this time it worked out. Duo kills straight up in lane without jungle interference at all. Maybe, again, the fact that there's a Nocturne who's not scary early on gave them extra confidence in the play, but regardless, there were the flash forwards for the Qs, the hit confirms, the skill shots landed. Just nothing but props for Bang & Wolf.
The Nocturne pick really not finding a place here in this game. The attempts at picking off the split pusher, the attempts at using the ultimate were almost always countered very quickly by SK Telecom.
MLXG disrupted the early game plan from SKT and largely won them game 1.
Yeah.
His non-factored nature of being a Nocturne really cost them in the early game in game 2.
Well, a great game to win for SKT. Now let's send it down to Dash and the analysts for their word on this one.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. The equalizer out of SK Telecom, making this a 1-1 and definitely a series. But they do it with the same style, different picks.
Yeah, and this draft got pushed even further down the rabbit hole of, like, what is SKT doing? And it's very clear here that they don't care about getting that Ardent Sensor bot lane power spike, and they're trying to play around Huni's carry. This game, it worked.
And I've got to say, you know, we talked about SKT perhaps losing some confidence, starting blank, you know, maybe doubting themselves a little bit. I love the fact that they had the faith in Wolf. They said, okay, you had an awful game on Blitzcrank. We know you can execute this kind of pick. They put him on the Leona. They play incredibly well in the 2v2, and that's such a confidence boost for this team who has been taking hits left and right.
I also do want to put a spotlight on Huni's performance, particularly on that Camille. Yes, he stumbled a little bit in the mid game, but he certainly brought it back when Faker roamed down into his lane. And for me, it's always going to be about Huni. I said in the last analyst test that Let Me and Xiaohu have to control the split push pressure, because as soon as Huni starts opening up that pressure point for SKT, that's the pressure point that they use to draw out these perfect fights or these perfect situations where they find these incredible 5v5s or these Baron advantages.
And we have to talk about Faker's Galio, because I feel like RNG has been trying to prepare plans to then beat Faker's Galio. We see it here with Malzahar taking Teleport instead of Ghost, and then the Nocturne to try and give them a split push advantage. First game, it did work. This game, Faker and the rest of the way SKT played around his Galio were the winners.
Can we call into question, though, the Nocturne pick, as was mentioned by Papa Smithy? It felt relatively useless in the early game, and where we did see them victorious over a Galio in game 1, it didn't feel like you necessarily needed to reach that much further for another answer.
So I will say, I think it makes quite some sense, like within the context of their draft. I don't think it worked out, but when you think of some of the combinations that you can pull off, with the Twitch opening up from max range on someone like the Varus, if you were ahead, the Nocturne ults in, you cannot even see the Twitch to react properly in that team fight. It also makes quite a bit of sense as far as shutting down the split push threat of the Camille, who you know eventually is going to outscale the Gnar in that way. So I think it was a pretty intelligent pick. I don't think it worked, but to me, the first 2 games are so much about how well Faker has been playing. You know, even in a loss in game 1, I think he was the most impressive player. Like, he has been insane, roaming nonstop. You talk about the TP adaptation from Xiaohu. He forced out the TP at level 2, roaming topside. He's doing everything.
All that said, let's take a look at a mid-game team fight. This one perhaps a little bit of an overreach here out of SK Telecom.
Yeah, and this is where the game may have actually broke completely open, because SKT had pressure in all 3 lanes, and RNG tries a bit of a desperation team fight, and it almost looked like here Huni would throw the game by going for a turret dive in and pulling the rest of SKT in for a defense.
Yeah, and this is the thing. All eyes really need to be on Let Me, because this is going to be that impressive triple kill. The big thing there is that suddenly Gnar has all of these kills, all of this gold, and he's able to stand 1v1 across from Camille in the side lane, at least for now.
And when you're trying to pull off a dive like that, and it's not on the Twitch, who has ultimate and is on the side, and this is sick. Gets the triple, but still, I mean, Huni definitely made some mistakes there, but he laned incredibly well, and he was able to get it back from them.
And I think this is where we jump to what you're talking about, Azael. What RNG was preparing for, the ability to use the Gnar and the Nocturne in a side lane to punish the split pusher in the Camille. But SKT so quick on the react here in the side lane. This one brought to you by Acer Predator.
And this is exactly what the game comes down to, is this interaction. Will Huni and Let Me fight like this, and then who can collapse? And you think when Huni jumps in that MLXG is going to get the kill, but then because Let Me jump back at the very beginning, he was a little slow on the follow-up. Huni makes it back into turret range, and the Galio turns it around.
And surprise, surprise, it's Faker that's leading the charge, not only making an incredible play in the bot side, but then immediately grouping up with his team, and they just exploit so hard for the Baron off of this.
You also have to point out some of the little micro interactions that Huni was able to pull off. He gets the auto in for his passive right before he gets feared. He uses the bounce off the turret to avoid damage, then come back in to stun the Gnar and then get out of range again. Like, he played that dive exceptionally well, and then Faker was there for the punish, and that really was the game-turning moment.
Exactly. The winner of that 2v2 decides the game. And we saw it, obviously, with SKT able to turn it around, but if RNG then winlet and the Camille split push loses the ability to beat Gnar, I feel like SKT actually runs out of most of their win conditions, so that was so insanely pivotal that Huni and Faker pulled it off.
The concern for me, however, is that I feel that RNG are running out of their win conditions in terms of how to contest Huni outside just banning him out. Gnar is Let Me's signature champion. That is the one that he goes to when he needs to compete in those 1v1 side lanes.
And the fact of the matter is they already are trying to ban him, right? The Jace is the main split push threat that Huni has been on throughout this tournament. They're banning that. He's showing more picks. He has the Trundle. We know he can bring out that. He's shown the Camille. This is a guy who really does thrive in carry picks. It's been his style for a long time. So if you're trying to focus him in pick ban, I feel like you give up a lot elsewhere.
Let's theory craft it a little bit then. RNG is going to move back to blue side here for game 3. How do they answer Huni in the top lane?
I mean, it's now a question of, is that where you want to strike? I agree. I think that they should be trying to figure out Huni and Let Me's matchup, but there's so many different adaptations you can make. Do you prioritize a winning bot lane matchup now that SKT have shown the Varus Leona and Wolf's confidence on the pick? Do you take away Faker from Galio? I mean, he's performing incredible on it right now, and the Malzahar has kind of run its course in terms of a counter pick. Or do you continue to try to get MLXG and Let Me to counteract Huni? And the problem is I feel like if you pick one of these, SKTs then have the other two options.
And I think, as weird as it says, you can keep giving Faker Galio, but you need to have MLXG on a jungler that has early game pressure. And that was not the case in this game. The Nocturne farmed until 6 and then died multiple times, never getting off the start. Whereas in game 1, MLXG had 4 kills and assists on Sejuani at the very start. So being on blue side, I think actually temporarily solves this problem for RNG.
I definitely think it'll help them, but at the end of the day, I don't think there's any player on SKT that you can just ban out. You know, even Huni, if you ban like Jace and you ban Camille and you ban Trundle or something, or Gnar or whatever, he can still just play Cho'Gath or Maokai or lots of these meta tanks very well here too. So I think you do have to kind of measure your expectations with just being able to super target one player, because I think you give up too much elsewhere.
And I do find it, extremely interesting that SKT is going without Ardent Sensor and clearly playing around topside, where RNG has actually played around topside first before cascading their pressure bottom lane. So teams can still continue to mix this up. If SKT actually decides to pick Lulu, they've set the expectation that they don't want to, so RNG is going to devalue that kind of stuff in draft.
And that's why I push back a little bit. I do agree that Huni can play the Cho'Gath and Maokai, but I don't think it's as successful for SKT versus one of his split pushing options, especially when they've shown that they're going to go away from the Ardent Sensor and give him so many more resources.
I'm still waiting for Ming to abandon the Ardent Sensor as well. We'll see if that happens.
Nope.
SKT take game 2. We'll see if RNG can bounce back against them in game 3. Don't go anywhere. Really? No.
Knocks down the Void for the re-engage. They're going to look for this one. The damage. They have it. First blood in the 2-on-2 for SKT.
先上，这个一个再跟大一个，小心，小心，小心。
Here we go. The chase into the turn. The team goes. He's trying to find the cup, but no kills coming across. The re-engage. Shahu being stunned up finds us out, but he does not have any way out. And MLXG, it's going to be a death here, for Ming as well. Looks like a 3-for-1 advantage SKT. Will they get some more kills? Uzi taunted up. The flash forward. The body slam is in. 2 deaths already. Make it a third shortly. SKT will not be stopped inside their opponent's base. The reigning world champions are closing in on their march.
Predator puts you in the battle. But the fight is all yours. Summon your strength.